Hi everyone and welcome back to Behind the Post. Say hello to our next guest, the marketing whiz at Demandbase who knows how to make brands pop. With 5 years of experience and a knack for crafting influencer campaigns that shine brighter than a disco ball, she's all about bringing the wow factor to everything that she touches. She passionately leads the employee advocacy efforts at Demandbase, turning her amazing team members into enthusiastic brand ambassadors. And when she's not busy being a brand genius, she's probably savoring her favorite obsession, mangoes. Creativity, strategy, and a serious mango crush. That's Vahbiz Cooper, our guest for today's episode. Vahbiz, are you ready to go behind the post with me?
Yes, super excited. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. I'm so glad you're joining me today. We're going to talk all about B2B influencer marketing. But before we dive into it and all the details and all the experience you have to share with us, please can you share with our listeners what is Demandbase and what does your role entail?
So Demandbase is a GDM platform. We do all the good stuff for all our B2B marketers out there. And my role basically entitles where I have to take care of a lot of influencer campaigns that go around. We also have a podcast known as On Base, so a lot of post-production things happening on our end as well. And I help around with social. And as you mentioned, our employee advocacy program, which has just started, and it's doing pretty well, thankfully. So taking care of all of that good stuff and, branding. And yes, more to see soon.
Amazing. So it's clear that you're doing a lot of stuff at Demandbase. In this episode, we're going to jump right into all of the stuff that you do with influencer marketing. And we've been seeing this massive shift, right, with influencer marketing breaking into the B2B marketing space for a while now. So the first question I have for you is, why do you think it's become so popular for B2B brands?
Mostly, I think it's because people have reduced their trust in just, brand pages. Like, let's say if a page is just posting something and they are like, okay, we do this, we do that. Of course, we a brand which is such a leader, people will still trust them, but it's more easier to trust a human. So I think that is the reason why it's got popular, because it's easier to, trust a human. You can interact back. A brand sometimes just gives a notion that they're just a logo, although of course there are people behind the brand. But when we speak like in basic marketing terms, it's just the logo. So when we hear another person saying like, hey, did you check Demandbase out? And they were like, oh yeah, like, this is what I know about it, or no, I don't know what Demandbase is. And when somebody trustworthy speaks about it, that is when it's like, oh, okay, like cool, I did not know about this. Or yeah, I only had like limited information about it and now it's like expanded. I think that is the main reason why it's got so popular with B2B. Again, mostly like decision makers would again go back and talk, to like other decision makers or people who influence the pipelines, etc. So when you have somebody to go back and have a chat with is when, the momentum picks up.
Definitely. Definitely. And building trust in B2B is so important for any B2B organization. And influencer marketing, as you've basically just summarized for us, is one of the best ways to do it. You have employee advocacy, but then also influence marketing, you can tap into a whole new network of people
Yes.
and raise the awareness for your brand. So I know that you've done loads of campaigns in the past, which I'm really excited because I know soon you're going to give us examples. But to start off with, how do you identify the right influencers to work with, and how many do you work with per campaign?
So honestly, it depends per campaign, like how big or small we want the campaign to be. Some of the campaigns are really niche because that's the focus of like, how we want to run the show. But the maximum that we've worked is our most famous 100 Women in Sales that happens every year. And the least number of influencers that we've worked with are 25. They were morely like VP above, director level above, because we wanted that kind of the camp that those kind of people for that particular campaign. How to select these? So in B2B influencer marketing, it's a lot of manual effort that goes in, unfortunately, due to a lot of regulations that LinkedIn has, which is good when you're like on the other side. But yeah, the first and foremost thing you need to see is content. what sort of content somebody is posting out. Sometimes it happens that the person's content is really good, but they do not have engagement. So engagement rate is something that is number 2 on the list that you need to check out. And number 3 is the followers. Because, I have seen a lot of big brands running behind big names, but eventually you come to know that those big names are just going to promote anything and everything. So, if you want your audience to trust your influencer, you do not always need to run behind like the follower count. And it's more so always have a focus on what sort of content they're posting. We've come across influencers who have good content and they're getting good engagement as well, but sometimes they're not the right fit for that particular campaign. So we keep them on our list, we add them, and we use them for any other campaign that we think like, okay, this is the type of content that we would want to see. Some campaigns we would want people to like make a video and not just post something. And sometimes the influencers that we choose are not very comfortable with doing video content, so you got to respect that. Always ensure that DEI is there in your influencer campaigns, and it's not just one slot of the entire data set, basically. So, yep.
So interesting. Because as you said, like you can have the best influencer campaign out there, but you need the right people that are comfortable with the kind of content that you need to make, create the right content, have the right following, have the right engagement. So really a campaign can only be as good as the influencers you choose. So it's really interesting to hear how you really drill down to find the right ones. And if you didn't find the right ones for the campaign, you save them for the future. How often do you run these influencer campaigns?
Approximately once to twice a month, depending on how much we want to put our brand out there. We used to do it more regularly initially, but there are a lot of things that go into, especially like manual hours. So we've reduced it now to maybe like 1 to 2 campaigns a month. But yeah, we have like a really big one coming. So we're all geared up for that. And that it's been in the works for like 2.5 months now, but the list is huge. So yeah.
Okay, well, this is my favorite part. I'm so excited to get to this part of the episode because I want to hear all your examples. What has been your favorite influence marketing campaign that you've worked on so far?
So our team actually had worked on a unicorn campaign. This was one of our ex-team members' idea, where we had sent unicorn piñatas to all of our influencers, saying that was the ad cloud. We were promoting our ad cloud, and the saying went like, we had the unicorn advertising solution. And once they got the piñatas, they were asked to, make a video, or even a photo was fine. We just wanted the piñata to show. And most of them made like a video of either their children breaking the piñata down, or maybe their colleagues, etc. And some of the pictures that came back and the videos that came back were so adorable, because most of them took the children into the picture to like break the piñata, and it was just adorable to see. And that was one of my all-time favorites that we've done. All those who actually agreed to like do a video or like post it also got the very famous Grove cookies. So it was like a double gifting sort of a campaign. But yes, it was really nice. It was pleasant. It was a bit scary as well, considering, we were shipping these out. So we were like a little bit skeptical, like, oh, is everybody going to get them on time? Or we wouldn't want like just few influencers talking about it and then the buzz dying and then the other influencers talking about it. We wanted it to like be all together. So that was a little bit challenging considering everybody's location, but it was so nice. And it was just adorable to see all of that stuff. It was just wonderful.
It's so nice, and it really shows you can still have fun with it. It can still be so personable in B2B. I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing it. I now want to ask you, you mentioned that you had challenges with this one. So I also am interested to know, what's the most challenging campaign you worked on and what did you learn from it?
Honestly, the most challenging I think we had was another campaign, which was believing in your data. Again, it was based on Ted Lasso's theme. The most challenging part is we had decided to make, like play cards for people, like with their photos and like their data, etc. And it's a bit challenging because you don't exactly know what to put in there and you don't want to put anything wrong. So you're like, okay, should we put this aspect of a person's profile or should we put that aspect of the person's profile? So it was like going back and forth, and all of these things were like customized. So, we had to get it right to the T before we send it to productions and, our gifting partners, etc. So we were like really, really scared that none of this should be messed up. And the amount of times I must have like gone back and QC'd the whole thing. Oh, is this person's photo right? Is their name right? Is the person still working, in the particular organization? Because it happens sometimes, like by the time you actually run the campaign, the person's shifted. So it was like, okay, what do I do? Sometimes we know they're kind of our friends, so we know that they have shifted, but they haven't announced it yet. So all of that good stuff was happening behind the scenes, but I spent a lot of time QCing everything so that nobody is like disappointed getting their name correct or picture wrong or any of those card details wrong. Like, yeah, I don't do this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I can imagine that's really challenging. You've got loads of moving parts going on behind the scene, and you want to make sure everything's personalized to the person. And like anything in marketing, once you learn one thing once, as marketers would know, anyone listening will know, it stays with you. Like,
Yes.
you're never
Yeah.
making, if you make a mistake, you're never making the same mistake again. If something's challenging, you know exactly how to handle it the next time. So it really is all trial and error, and you learn as you go along. The next thing I want to ask you is, as you said, with loads of moving parts going on, and how you mentioned before with the previous example that everybody was on different locations around the world, the influencer marketing launch day for your campaign must be so stressful, like for anybody. So what is the biggest hack for making sure the day goes smoothly?
So the biggest challenge what I face is we have to ensure that everybody gets the email that they've been selected on the same day. And it's fine when we're doing like smaller campaigns of like 25 people. It starts to get challenging when the people are 50, and even more so challenging when we're doing the women in sales campaign, because there are like 100 women in sales. So all of them need to get the mail at the same time, at the same day. So what I did this mistake in one of my earlier campaigns where I just like started to like copy paste the whole thing and keep all of, just change the name and stuff. It was a mess because by the time I finished, like people, because I go alphabetically, I thought that would make things easy. But by the time I finished people with A, I had like so many people with like E, Z, V saying, I saw the blog. I know that I'm selected. Why haven't I got my social card yet?
Oh no.
And I was like, what do I do? And I didn't want to like skip anybody through the list and be like, oh yeah, here's yours or here's yours, because that would add on to the mess. So I would like wait and until and unless I haven't seen their name on the list, I'm like, yeah, sorry, I was going alphabetically. But now what I do is I keep everything scheduled. It's like, yep. I go back and I QC all these things because now each and every email that is sent is personalized. It was on those early days where we would just keep a regular message, change the names. But I think I did not think that it is something very good to do. It's always nice to add that extra touch, make the person feel like you actually viewed their profile and they deserved a spot on the list. So all of those are personalized. I ensure that I have like a huge word file that has all the personalized messages that are going to go to each and every single influencer, and I just schedule all of them. So nobody is messaging me from the bottom of the list saying, hey, I saw myself, and where's my code card, or where's this, or where's that. So yep.
It definitely makes things less stressful because you just schedule it out, all goes out at once, and you
Yeah.
don't get a million emails while you're trying to send emails out. And as we said,
Yeah.
once you learn one challenge, you know the solution for the next time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that is actually a really good hack for anybody listening. You've kind of teased a little bit, but I'm wondering if I can ask you if you have any exciting campaigns coming up soon.
Yes, we do have the Women in Sales 2024, which is coming up. I think the nominations for those are closed now. But yes, if anybody feels free to nominate themselves, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. But yes, that is something that is super, super, super exciting. We also have a lot of new stuff, which I'm going to keep a secret, that is going to come out. So everybody do check out your LinkedIn's and
It's a
be,
demanding.
on the lookout.
Yeah, it's a good teaser. I'm going to be waiting there on your LinkedIn page. My next question then, how long do you run the campaigns?
So if the campaigns are like smaller with fewer people, maybe 5 to 10 days, because I guess by that time everybody would have already received all that we would want to send them. But campaigns that are huge, when we had like 50 sales leaders or our women in sales, those do run for approximately a month, because we would have to keep going back and monitor every single thing manually, because there's no way that we can track all of those engagement rates only because they're on LinkedIn. There's the only way we can track them is manually. There's nothing automated for it. So yeah, we would want to like monitor it to the T. Sometimes people are like on a break because it comes out in Women in Sales Month, which is October. So sometimes people have gone for their fall breaks, etc. So by the time they come back and they view and they post, it takes like a couple of weeks or more. So we monitor all those things for at least a month. And yeah, and if we see like some campaign that's not really doing great, we try to like tweak it in the early stages so that the momentum's on.
Yeah, and it stays running while you're tweaking it. That
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm really interested to ask, and interested to hear what you're going to say because you've run so many campaigns, but how do you measure the success of influencer marketing?
So, on the surface, there are things like engagement rates, comments, shares, a reach that, can tell you if the campaign was like successful or not. But, when we are doing B2B influencers, sometimes it's hard to measure things like brand awareness. Or, we had campaigns in the past where people were a part of, or they saw somebody who was a part of it, and they just randomly happen to come on our page like a few months down the line, sometimes more than a year down the line. And they were like, yeah, I saw, this campaign and that campaign, and that's how I came to know about Demandbase. But when we were running the campaign, we had no clue that this person like even saw us. So, those things kind of get tricky to measure. But yes, like, at the surface or like the quick things that you can measure is engagement rates, shares, reach, and what am I missing? Yeah, your likes, comments, shares, and your reach. Yeah.
Amazing. It's so interesting to hear. And also because you don't know the impact it's having on someone
Yeah.
discovering your brand. And then you find out a year later or however long later, and they came from probably like the unicorn piñata influencer
Yeah.
marketing campaign. And you're like, oh, and it's also nice for you.
Yeah.
It's rewarding to hear that. I want to ask, because obviously you're an expert in influencer marketing. So what advice would you give our audience specifically about influencer marketing? Do you have any quick wins or funny mistakes that you've learned from along the way?
Oh, the most important thing I would tell everybody is don't be afraid to experiment. I know, like, in the current scenario, budgets, are tight and you cannot do huge campaigns and, damage your budget. But definitely experiment on the smaller things and just try to have fun. And don't forget that the person on the other side is a human too. And do not go and tell your influencer what to do. Like you can guide them for sure, but do not tell them like to the T that, hey, this is what you have to do and this is what we want to do. Regarding like a funny mistake, which shouldn't have actually happened. But in the way earlier days, we had like one of our first campaigns where I was just helping out. And my then manager told me to, hey, can you like extract all the engagement happening? And I very silly, I just went and I extracted all of that, least realizing that these rates would change the next day. So I should have ideally taken down the links or copy pasted the links. And when I look back at it, I'm like, why did I do that? Because that is just so basic. But in my defense, I was new. I did not know anything. But of course, that's not an excuse. But like, it was just really, really, really stupid of me. The next day, when he asked me, he's like, "Oh yeah, what's the new engagement rate?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, do I have to go back and check all of that stuff?"
All
Um,
again.
yes, like I had to visit as everybody's profile and actually scroll down to that particular post. And I was like, oh my God, like what? Why didn't you like think of this before? Like it changes. So don't do that, anybody.
You've got the warning now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I laugh at it now, but at that point of time, I felt really, really, really stupid. Like, what are you doing?
No, you learn
Yeah,
along the way, and at the time you didn't realize, and now you know not to do it again.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, at least it's a funny mistake and not a catastrophic one. So we can
Oh,
always
yeah, yeah,
give it to
yeah.
the
Yeah, I wouldn't want that.
So with that, we're going to move over to the last question. And you have so much experience in influence marketing, as I've said 1,000 times, because I am genuinely in awe, but also social media in general. So over your career, I'm wondering, what is the best piece of social media advice you've ever been given?
Honestly, sometimes I think our posts kind of get too triggered on what we have to offer. We, as in like the any company X, it's like, oh, we have this, we have that, and this is what we do. But does your audience really need that? Or I think it would be wiser if we use, like a pain point that we've come to know, like maybe we've chatted or we've, done some research, or sometimes an influencer must have said, like, hey, you know what? We've used this product and this is what we have, identified. So it made that pain point into like a humorous post